talking about ethnography, which is the practice of fieldwork by cultural anthropologists. And what it essentially entails is a way to try and understand the world from the perspective of the people living in the world. What that means is that you have to be a part of the people you're trying to understand's life. Or lives. You have to participate in their everyday activities and do it for a fairly long period of time, and generally that includes doing what gets referred to as participant observation, which is the role of being a part of the group and the daily activities of the group, or to say it in a less fancy way, it's basically hanging out. One of the other significant features of ethnography that I think is a little bit different than a lot of other practices in the social sciences is that ethnographers go into the field with the assumption that they don't know what necessarily, certainly what the answers are or even what the questions might be. Ethnographers put themselves in the role of the student as opposed to the expert. And if you're the student, then what you want to do is try and have the group or the individuals that you're working with teach you about what's important to them, and that's where you start. In the beginning, doing ethnographic interviews, you wouldn't, or at least I wouldn't advise that you start your interview with a person saying, so tell me, how does gender affect, what are the differences in terms of the gender relationships between the home country and where you are now. I think that because already you're kind of leading the witness, so what you would want to do would open up with a much more general kind of question and then see how the individuals would actually talk about gender if they do, or how they talk about it in a way that doesn't necessarily refer to it as gender. The value of ethnography for undergrads or for anyone is that you can, to be able to get sort of a first-hand experience, an on-the-ground experience, which is what it requires, of how to try and understand a group or a culture's worldview from starting with their perspective as opposed to your perspective, but at the same time having to grapple with the fact that there's a dynamic between you can't wipe out your perspective. I think that one of the major values of ethnographic research is that it is focused on how one tries to look at the world from others, from a different perspective than one's own, and how you bring your own perspective into the understanding of another person or another group's perspective, and that's tremendously important.